Okay, so in a previous build on the Stearman, we talked about making a instrument panel, and I think I talked about putting bezels around the cutouts, and you can see that here. And on the lower four openings, we put the bezels around the outside of the holes that I cut, and it's just a simple hole punch is all you use to do that. And then the top two holes, I actually I made the bezels a little smaller and put them inside the holes that we cut out. And on the back side, you can see that. So the reason for that is that on our example for the one I'm using, the photograph of a cockpit, in a real-world example of this airplane. This was the layout was the four larger instruments on the bottom and two smaller instruments on top, and I think well, I have to go back and look at the reference photos to see what the two smaller ones were. One was might have been, well, I don't even want to. I'm not going to guess. I'll go back and look at the photograph. But at any rate, this was the layout for the instrument panel, and then on the right side, in the real example over here, was a switch plate, and I think the navigation switch, or maybe the master battery and generator switches were on that panel. At any rate, I'll go back to the reference photo and we'll finish our panel accordingly. But I just wanted to talk briefly about these bezels, these rings, and how they're made. And essentially, again, here's the typical hole punch that we use, to punch out the holes in the panel. And to try and get some alignment, I just on the back of it just draw a straight line. Maybe see that there, and then center the hole punch along the line, so that we get our instrument faces will be in a nice straight line. This is solder material. This is what I use to make the rings, and with that, all you do is wrap this around something of a suitable diameter. In this case, it was the paintbrush handle, and just wrap it around 3 or 4 times. In this case, 4 times for the lower rings. Wrap it around 4 times, get you 4 rings, and then cut them. Make one straight cut through all 4 rings, and that actually gives you 4 complete circles, 4 pieces that are in a circle. And then a little bit of super glue around the outside of the hole, and then you just center it and drop it on there. And for the smaller holes, I use the smaller diameter tool. So that was this. Just wrap the wire around the upper portion of this handle, slide them off, and drop them right in, and they fit nicely into the hole. So that's how that's done. And then the rest of our panel, we cut a backer sheet just using a piece of cardstock. Lay it on there, trace around the outside of it, and cut it to shape. Here it is. And once again, all we'll do is we'll line these two things up together, take a pencil and trace the circles onto the backer sheet. Then we'll punch out the instrument faces from our JTEC sheet, and I'll show you that process when we get to it. I just want to talk about it here. And where each of those circles are, you just white glue and drop an instrument face onto that circle, centered, so that when you come back with your instrument face, the dials will be lined up. And once you have that set up, you just take a marker and trace the backer sheet onto the acetate that you're going to use. Just trace it right on there and cut that out. It can be the same size and exactly. You don't have to just cut out each little circle. That's not necessary. You're going to cut out a piece that is basically the same size as the backer and the panel. So you'll have your backer sheet, it'll have the instrument panels glued onto it, then you'll lay your piece of acetate that's been cut to size on that, and then the sandwich is made when you then glue the instrument panel onto that. Right? And you have a complete instrument panel that can go into the cockpit and look pretty decent. And that's how that's done. So I'll make a video as I do the work, and we'll go from there. So still lots to do, lots of work to do still on the interior. We have our seats, but I need to build up the wire framing that I'm going to have them sitting on. They have the wood pedestals there. That's to make sure that they don't come loose. The other framing will be for cosmetic only. And then our motor, I've gone ahead and drilled holes in the sides of the motor. Actually, they go right through. And I've cut some wire already for the framing that holds the motor in a standoff. It holds it out from the firewall. And this will also bring it closer to the front of our, you see there's a bit of a gap in there. It'll bring the motor closer to the front of our cowling, and that way when we go to mount the propeller, the motor will be right up against the cowling at where the propeller is attached. So we get a nice good look through those openings at a proper engine assembly. Okay, what else? I don't think there's anything else we can talk about here. Just wanted to go over those things and show you the panel and how we do the bezels. So, and again, this is just a discussion. I'll actually record when I start putting the instruments together. Thanks. Bye.